Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Absolutely incredible guests the world over with incredible skills. They've turned around and they're helping others. They've helped themselves first. They've got some sort of a practice. They could be a New York Times bestselling author, a healer, professor, near-death experience expert. We've even had a Delta Force operator, a White House doctor, you name it. So again, incredible experts, super fortunate to have them come on this small show on YouTube. Today, we've got a guest coming back who's very special. Ton of different experiences. I'd encourage you to check out, I believe it was episode 4. He was one of our very first early guests. He's coming to us from Seattle in the United States. It's MARC LAINHART. He's had out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences. He's lost 2 brothers in the same month. He's served in the U.S. Coast Guard. And at one point when he was on the Cutter Spencer coming back from Puerto Rico, he had a UFO encounter that it wasn't just him. It was the whole crew. It was both submerged and in the air. He's went to Arthur Findlay College. If anybody knows this, it's kind of the Hogwarts of intuitiveness, but it's a serious school, not easy to get through. There's much more to his story. He was 2020 Psychic of the Year. He has a fabulous radio show, podcast, Inspired Living. And again, there's much more to Mark. I want to get Mark introduced and have him say hello right away. Mark, welcome back to Angels, Positivity, and Love. Great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me back. And I can't believe episode 4. And yeah, it's a lot has changed since the last time we talked. A lot of spiritual growth, a lot of changes personally, physically. Published a book since the last time we talked. So not a New York Times bestseller, but an Amazon Prime bestseller, I guess. So
Can
yeah,
you hold that up
sure.
and tell us a little bit about it?
So it's through Best American Psychics, in which I'm affiliated, and it's our psychic experiences. It's called Between Worlds and Reflections. So they asked me to contribute to the book. So I wrote a bunch of chapters just on my experiences. It published last year in 2023, and it's my first published book. And it's really just kind of a memoir of my experiences of how I came to understand psychic sciences, to understand mediumship, to understand near-death experiences. And that I had started 2 decades ago, so when my brothers, you had mentioned both my brothers had passed in the same month. And that really just got me prospecting. That really got me looking for all of the mysteries of life, the unknowns, the things that for some of it may scare us, right? And it's like, you got to move past your fears to identify, what is on the other side of this physical realm, if you will. And that's why the book is called Between Worlds, because I started to really experience what is seen as you and I are talking in this interview this morning. And again, thank you for having me on again to talk about this, but also to examine the world that is not seen with the physical eye, but more of the spiritual eye, the third eye, the pineal gland, everything that our bodies are made up to do. And it's been a fascinating journey of not just self-discovery, but meeting people like yourself, having in-depth conversations and ideas about what does happen when we die, where do we go. And so I talk a lot about that in the book, of my own experiences, my own learned behaviors, my shift from religion to spirituality, because there is a big difference between religion and spirituality. I was raised in a religious format, very staunch religious format. And after my brother's passing and my father-in-law passing, because I had 3 people that were very close to me that passed, my religious beliefs changed, and I became more of a spiritual awakening, more of a spiritual prospector, working with my intuition, working with ancient modalities that have been around for many centuries, and just understanding what is the journey here. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my plan for all of this? And so along the way, I went from being a student of just horrible loss and trauma and tragedy, which I always refer to as the TNT that blew up my life. And over that course of 20 plus years, transitioned into more of a teacher of hope, a teacher of inspiration, helping others through grief, helping people through loss, having them, give them a different perspective, if you will, of the things that are not seen. I'm going to be talking tomorrow at a service and we do a lot of philosophy. And one of the things that is coming up for me is we talk a lot of things in our technologies that's not seen. Like you and I are connecting right now via Wi-Fi, but we don't see the Wi-Fi, right? But without the Wi-Fi, without the internet, without that connection, there's no connection here, right? And so a lot of times I always tell people, you know, there's a lot of things in our world that we don't see. For example, the air that you're breathing right now. We know that we need air, right? Without air, we don't exist, but we take that for granted because we don't see it going in and carbon dioxide going out, right? Or gravity. We know that gravity exists, right? Otherwise, we'd be all floating around this planet, or you jump off a diving board, you know you're going to end up in the pool. But we don't see gravity, right? We don't actually see it with the physical eye. The wind, we don't see the wind. We see the effects of the wind. As I look out my studio here in Seattle, I can see all the trees moving, but I don't see what's actually moving the trees with my physical eye. And so it's really about, you know, coming into your own, to know thyself and what gifts and abilities and skills you have here in the physical incarnate world. And so, you know, my journey over the last 20 years has been a roller coaster of highs and lows, lots of learning, lots of failures, which is for me is always first attempt in learning. And, you know, just understanding what life is all about. And that's, I think, the journey for many of us. And if you're just beginning, be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, you know, seek out books, seek out teachers, seek out mentors to help you understand the journey of life, which for me is always the acronym, learn it from experience. That's why we're here, right? Life itself is the university in which we are all enrolled, and someday we'll graduate to that next level, um, whatever your perspective is, I guess, of the next step of the journey. But it's guaranteed to us all. So
now, the first time you were on the show was February of 2023. You gave a beautiful description of seeing an angel that was like 2.5 stories tall in a waterfall and a hike, part of a group. The classic, you know, brimstone smoke version of an angel. And so people can go back and check that episode out. Again, episode 4, the very start of Angels, Positivity, and Love, the series. We're booked, by the way, out to 2025 April at the time of this recording, in the middle of the summer of 2024. We're booked into April of 2025, episode 204. Lynn McTaggart from the UK has just signed on. So super exciting. But Mark, talk to us about how times have changed even in a year and a half. We've got a lot of talk about UAPs, UFOs, disclosure. Is the galaxy a little more like that Star Wars 1977 movie, The Cantina Scene? How do you handle all this? How do you mix it in with spirituality? Angels exist, guides, loving guides, religious, non-religious figures. What's the way you describe the environment?
yeah, well, a lot has changed in this last year and a half, and I've long said, you know, even from my first days as an experiencer with UAPs off the coast of Puerto Rico, that's when I really became a true believer in that there are other things out there that are more intelligent than just humans. And in that time frame, we've seen a lot from legislative to public announcements in our government, which our government, you know, has always been non-transparent when it comes to this. You know, one of the longest conspiracy theories running in recorded history is, are we alone? And you know, there's now a committee, there's a UAP committee, there's a budget that's actually following these anomalies. I just went to a big UFO conference in Oregon, which was really interesting to watch some of the guest speakers talk about, including the director of Accidental Truth, which Accidental Truth is getting experts to go on the record and accidentally reveal truths that they're not supposed to. So that's streaming through Prime or Tubi right now. And listen to his interactions about all these high level government officials that are acknowledging that we are not alone, that there is technology that is not of Russia, of China. It defies the laws of gravity. They defy the laws of physics, and they're not sure what it is. So it's now become, you know, since the last time we've talked, they've done some public hearings on it, and they haven't talked about this. Is the first time that they've openly talked about this in an intelligence hearing, to say, yeah, this is a national security threat. Now it's become a national security threat because we don't know what it is. But it's, you know, I've long said that, you know, that full disclosure would come not through the government, not through the media cycle, but through crowdsourcing, which means everybody that has, you know, one of these will be picking up, and through, you know, YouTube or TikTok or the streaming will actually show proof that we're not alone. And that full disclosure would happen in our roaring 20s, is what I predicted on my podcast back in 2018, that sometime during our roaring 20s, so I guess I've got another, 6 years before we end this decade, that we're going to realize that we're not alone. And it doesn't have to be, now behind you see Grogu, the little green man. I do that purposely because a lot of people, from Hollywood movies think that these spaceships are just going to show up in front of the White House lawn with little green men. That's probably not going to happen that way, right? It's more of, maybe they're not from the outer space realm. Maybe they're not from the universe. Maybe they've been here the whole time. In fact, Harvard just released a study. I'm talking Harvard. I'm talking experts. I'm talking scientists. I'm talking some of the smartest people on the planet, said that there actually may be aliens living among us, actually observing and watching us and studying us. And that's coming out of Harvard. That's not a Mark Lainhart, conspiracy theory. That's, we're starting to get universities.
They had 6 theories too in that report: extraterrestrial and so on, interdimensional, and then there's other, yeah, and then from within the Earth and so on. So
yeah, so we have the ocean, that we know less about the ocean than we do our own moon. We've discovered about 15% of our ocean. The world is 70% covered by water, right? We have not had the technology to go down deep into the earth, but as our technology improves and our awareness to our world becomes more understanding, that yeah, there are probably portals, there are probably interdimensional. Skinwalker Ranch, if you ever watched the docuseries in Utah, this ranch has been going on for a long time, from Robert Bigelow to the DOD to the Skinwalker crew that is doing all these tests on the Utah ranch right now. And the Skinwalker goes all the way back to indigenous times, indigenous cultures that believe that this area of the United States has some sort of interdimensional portals, stargates. And the team there, within their 5th season, is actually showing that there are anomalies through science, following the science and the data, to show that we don't understand our world as much as we think we do, right? Science based on mathematics shows that we've only proven about 4% of actual scientific method theory. Everything else is, an opinion, a hypothesis, a theory, including wormholes, including what, Einstein and Nathan Rosenberg talked about back in, bending space and time to go through this interdimensional portal, if you will. It's still a theory because it's not proven by science. But if we break down, Michael, that we've only discovered by mathematics, proven science at 4%, that means that there's 96% of the scientific world that we just have not identified. 96%. But us as humans think that we know it all. Now, what's going to be interesting through all of this, not just with UAPs, full disclosure, learning that we're not alone either. They've been here, they've been in paintings from the 1100s, right? So it's nothing new. But I think that as we move into our AI, that's going to be a whole conversation. It's going to be a complete paradigm shift to where we're going. There was a book written back in 2005. I'm totally blanking on his name right now. Ray something. He wrote The Singularity is Near, and they've just re-released it. He's the godfather of what he talked about in 2005, what AI would become in our society. And a lot of people are scared based on AI, based on a Hollywood movie or premise of Terminators. But it's not that. It's literally the singularity is the AI is going to help us become even more intelligent. And intelligence is going to tell us that we're not alone. That, the Fermi paradox, it's such a big universe, then where is everybody, right? But the AI is going to help us to understand our evolution of our technology, but also us as a species, as a human consciousness. Everything that Einstein talked about the brain as a 3-pound, most complex mechanism in the entire universe, and that AI is as it's here. As I look at my Zoom screen with you right now, at the bottom, I've got an AI companion now that could document and take all the notes as you and I are talking. And AI is going to be a big topic, from a spiritual standpoint, that we're going to be talking about in the years ahead, and that's going to tie into extra dimensional beings, ETs, aliens, whatever you want to call them, UAPs. But it's going to determine finally that we're not alone, and everything changes from science, communication, transportation, how our interactions as a global, culture, that all changes. And that's an exciting time. Now, I know we look at the world today and there's a lot going on, but there's usually out of chaos is born, enlightenment. Out of chaos is born. I'm thinking of the lotus flower that grows up, from a spiritual standpoint. The lotus flower comes out of, the swamp, the dirtiness. Something beautiful comes out of that. And I feel as a society, that's where we're going. Even though you look out today and go, what is going on with our world. There's a lot of change going on, and that's transformation, that's ascension, and not everybody's going to be on board with that. I've learned history teaches us about 70% of the population will want to move forward, but there's always going to be that 30% that's like scared, wants to revert back, and we're seeing that in real time as you and I are talking today.
And I just
So
had a guest on who talked about it being only 3% of folks out there who are, violence is the way, resistance, control, extreme control, and so on. And that it's really 80 to 90% of people now are much more opened up in a certain way that you can't really measure. And I'd like to just approach the exact same topic in sort of a different light. And I'll try it a few different ways. We know we love our dogs or pets. We just know, but there's no scientific proof. And so that doesn't mean we don't love our dogs, should quit tomorrow and not even try, or doubt our love for our dogs. But science is potentially very limited based on intellect, based on thinking. And now let's do an Einstein quote about thinking. We shall require a substantially new manner of thinking if mankind is to survive. I would only add that thinking is up here. It's not the heart. It's not the connection to the universe. It's not that unlimitedness. There's a type of knowing man does that precludes possibility, that limits everything. And I would argue that even with the MH370 discussion, a lot of technology that would blow our minds that's yet to kind of come out, that may have been in existence for a while, it might upend a lot of the science that we kind of view as bedrock and as a fact. And there are certain folks out there that have to live and die that way. It's thinking only. I think I've had a guest on this show who said literally if the president of the United States read a statement that aliens existed, it wouldn't be enough. It would have to be science proving it. And so I get it. That's thinking, and that's the way we roll for a lot of us. But there's something beyond thinking here. And I'll switch it to the final bit, which is when you're in your heart is when all the fun stuff happens, including connecting to angels, Arcturians, Pleiadians, Andromedans, Orion, angels. What am I missing? Light beings, fairies, you name it. It's a big galactic universe. And I guess it's a kind of a big buffet we all get to get unlimited eats with. How do you handle it from the touchy-feely aspect of things? Less science, less intellect, which might be viewed as an anchor, dragging you down over the side. And it's more just compassion, kindness, gentleness, not taking anything too seriously. Can you talk to us about that dichotomy, the duality there?
yeah, I think a lot of times you and I can talk about all the interesting subjects that you just presented, right? Through our storytelling, through our history, through as I see it, like a Star Trek moment of first contact, that there's a whole universe waiting to be discovered. But for people watching this show, it really I put it back on it comes down to your own personal experience, right? Because I can tell you about all of the experiences I've had, but that's a good story. But until you've actually come face to face with the UAP, or you've had a near death experience, or you've watched people transition over with your own experiences, I think that makes it more real for that person versus it's always funny if you have a hallucination, or you have a vision, or you have this amazing connection, people will call you oh, that was just a dream, or maybe you're a little crazy. But if somebody else has it and they put it in a book, we call that religion, right? So it's like you have to have your own personal experience to really move past your learned behaviors, because we are all brought up from what our parents teach us, what society teaches us. We have our institutions from school and education and what's taught. And even Carl Jung talked about the super ego institutions, Social Security, and the rule of law. And we're born into all of this, and really to become that believer of aliens and angels and fairies and everything that is that might be a story, is going to be through your own personal journey, your own personal experience, but you have to have free will and choice to do that. Not everybody's going to choose to do that. So that duality, just like in the book, if you look at the cover of the book, it is duality in its essence. It's literally between the reflection of, is this the sky above, or is this the sky below? Because I can do this and it's now, okay, what's above, what's below, right? So it becomes your own experience.
If you turn it this way, it looks like wings.
Oh, I didn't do it that way, huh? Right? So, there's just a lot of, and what I love about what's happening with our society, and I've said this for a long time, Does art imitate life, or does life imitate art? Because there's a lot of shows that are coming through that talk about multidimensional, that talk about vibrational frequency, that, you know, the brain, we know through science, can vibrate at 12 different frequencies and receive in 12 different frequencies, yet we have 12 different dimensional constructs, you know. So there's a lot of things that, as a spiritualist, we always say that we're ahead of what science hasn't yet caught up to, or what physics has yet to define. And so from a spiritual standpoint, it's really just using, in conjunction with your normal five senses that everybody would agree on: see it, taste it, touch it, hear it, smell it. We know that from science that is proven through anatomy, through the law of physics, through the study of medicine. But if you then start to go past those and use what we call the clairs, which is an ancient form of clairsentience, clairvoyance, claircognizance, which most mothers have claircognizance. They know when their babies are in trouble, or their children are, you know, are in trouble. That's that sense of knowingness. When you start to use those tools, your experiences of this world change, they transform. And just because you don't see it here doesn't mean that this eye doesn't start to open and you start to see it here. And for some, we call that the spiritual awakening. That can be quite intimidating, because now you're walking in the world of duality: what is seen and what is unseen. And you question your journey here. You question your learned behaviors. You question your religion, you know, how you were brought up, you know. And you then start to, and that's the beauty of it as spiritualism is your own divinity, exploring your own divinity within, not what a book tells you that happened 3,000 years ago. And I, you know, in my development group, we've studied all the top 10 religions, and the stories are the same. It's like one record with 10 or 12 different truths on this record, but they all talk about love and compassion and kindness, and treating people with respect, and with dignity. And we don't see that in our world, right? And we don't see a lot of that globally. But, you know, the duality pathway can be very difficult, because you have to sometimes unlearn everything that you've learned up to this point. Now, I was 27, so I had 27 years under my belt when I started to unlearn everything that I've been taught. And I'm still learning, still a babe in this pathway of a child, still learning how to walk with these legs of, you know, duality of what is seen and what is unseen. Because you do question your own reality when things are happening that you're like, huh, was that a coincidence, or was that a synchronicity? And Einstein would talk about coincidences and synchronicities all the time, of God's way remaining anonymous. So it's like, oh, okay, well, what is God? I can't tell you, Michael. I know that there is a God, but I can't tell you if it's a him or her, what he looks like, what she looks like. I just know that there is a presence on the other side of this. And that is, you know, that's going to be subjective to everybody's perspective of, you know, because some people don't believe in God, and that's okay too. You can be complete atheist, you can be agnostic, you want proof of something. I can tell you that since we've last talked, I've gone on a journey of working with plant medicine. And that plant medicine has 100% confirmed to me that there is something on the other side of this physical incarnate matter that we're in. And through plant medicine, which is very ancient, used for many, many centuries by many cultures down in South America and Peru, there is an understanding of our connection to nature. And through that power of nature is a connection to something bigger than ourselves. We are in spiritualism, we talk about truth, light, and nature as the foundations of what we do. So I would say that my new religion, if I'm spiritual, but my religion is nature, my connection to nature, because nature in the end is going to determine all of our outcomes. She's overall the mother. She's the landlord, and we're just tenants here. And I think sometimes as humans we forget that we're just renting this space for a purpose of time. So, but it's not easy to walk that path of duality. So for your subscribers and listeners and followers, be patient, trust, patience, dedication, discipline. Give yourself grace, because this does not happen overnight. Just like the caterpillar does not become the butterfly, there's a series of, you know, transformations and through the cocoon phase. And so give yourself time and patience and grace for things that you may be going through right now, or have gone through years ago, that you're now starting to honor your grief, or you're starting to catch up from things that happened in your past, and, you know, start to heal and repair from those past experiences.
And I'll add faith in there. And, you know, religious, non-religious, I'd argue it's the exact same thing, but it's the way each person has to have it. So some will sign up one way, but that's letting go or not knowing and getting from here to here. Any other definition you want to add, fine, but it's just a little extra oomph to your journey if you do it. Quick aside or a note for people who've been watching the series on a regular basis, besides suggesting that you like right now, comment on something, share and subscribe. In the whole UAP UFO discussion like realm, here are some of the guests we've had in 2023, 2024, and will be in 2025. We have already had all these folks taped, but we've had SETI's senior astronomer Seth Shostak on. Steve Bassett, if you know the Paradigm Institute, exactly, SETI's sticker right there. So Steve Bassett, Paradigm Institute, they're representing a lot of the whistleblowers. His buddy partner there is the attorney who's the civil rights guy. I forgot his name right now. Alan Steinfeld, who has probably interviewed, I'm going to say 3,000. It's probably closer to 20,000 guests. He's had a show forever. Blanking on the name of the show. It was maybe New Realities, but you can look him up. He was a guest in 2023. We've had Vinny Adams, the show host, who's working closely with another well-known UFO figure. I think it's Richard Dolan. Vinny's is a show host of an incredible show, but out of the UK. We've got Grant Levac out of Australia, Lily Nova, American, who's been photographing UFOs and had direct encounters. She's wide open and very, I'll call it progressive for encounters. And then Britt Elders, who's been an investigative journalist all over the globe, especially Mexico with UFO and Switzerland. She's got, I think, 3 books coming out this year. The first one's already come out. It's the Pleiadians book that I've got featured. It's 45-year anniversary of Billy Myers' story in Switzerland, where it was direct contact before AI existed, before computers really existed, but a piece of the craft, direct photography, 8mm film, and so on. Britt is fantastic. I will just say that you can have a direct experience. It's all love. You're not going to get eaten. This isn't about getting judged. There's nothing really harsh to it. I know if we watch Independence Day, don't watch Independence Day and try to do this the next day, but it's a lot easier than people think because it's not about thinking. Can you give us the pep talk, Mark, that it might be gentler, softer, we're being cared for, looked out for, and this isn't to help us become an appetizer into a dinner. This is about our soul's development, our journey, our growth into more love, compassion, consciousness as a species, and so we can grow into more awareness.
Yeah, it's I go back to that. I looked up the author of The Singularity is Near. His name's Ray Kurzweil, and he wrote this back in 2005, and he talked about that the 21st century. Now this was 2005. We're 2024, and we're now having real conversations about artificial intelligence. We're having real conversations about quantum computing. The quantum computing by IBM is now out being worked with the Cleveland Clinic to actually process information. And so when it comes to, in this book, he talks about, I believe that our understanding of our universe and this planet is going to evolve. And he talked about it being one of the most thrilling periods in the history of mankind. And I believe that our technology is going to be a catalyst to help us understand our universe. Because again, a lot of times when we don't understand something as a species, as a human, we move to that place of fear, right? We move to that place of our learned behaviors of our past, our religious ideologies, and it's moving past that. And I believe that technology is going to help us move into that, call it Star Wars, call it Star Trek, something bigger than ourselves. And that's going to be hard for some to comprehend because it doesn't fit in their narrative. It doesn't fit in a leather-bound book, right? And technology through AI is going to make us smarter. It's going to make us more intelligent. And I believe through intelligence, I believe that, these beings, again, however your definition of them, I believe that if you're an advanced species, you're going to observe before you just introduce yourself. I don't know if I would introduce myself as an advanced being to the human consciousness right now, right? Because it's just war and chaos and violence. But I believe that they've been observing us. And when the time is right, that culture will release that information to let them know that, yeah, we've been watching you and we're much more advanced. Now, it doesn't make them deity. It doesn't make them a god. But overnight, like you said, if the president came on and said, yes, we are not alone in the universe, a part of the population would classify them now as some sort of deity or god because they have advanced tech. It's not that at all. They're just more advanced and they're a million years ahead of us. Look at just what we've done in our technology. Just you and I, pre-internet, pre-smartphone, to where we were pre-internet, pre-smartphone to where we're at now. Now add another 20 years and we have AI, robotics, advanced medicine. We're seeing more of the universe by the day with the technology we're creating. So at some point, it's going to be like, you know, right now, over 70% of the population polled believes that we're not alone. That story has that percentage. If you go back to the 1930s, it would have been about 7%. So from the early turn of the century to now, people are understanding through awakening, through technology, through education, through science, that we're seeing more of not just our universe, but going to the moon, going to Mars, understanding our planet, our oceans. And through that point, it's going to be like, yeah, duh, we're not alone. But we have to be it's almost like they're waiting to introduce themselves at the right time. But I believe that AI and the conversion of you know, our species with our technology will actually allow us to accept a greater, broader picture of our role in the universe. Because again, think about what's going on today. We're on a round planet, so there is no up or down, going around a big ball of fire, and yet we're worried about our, you know, our day-to-day interactions. But there's a bigger picture going on as you and I are speaking right now. It's like a lot of times when people come to me from a spiritual standpoint, they're like, Mark, where is heaven in all of this? And I always tell them, you know, heaven is not a location. Heaven is a vibration. And if you start to think like Nikola Tesla talked about in terms of energy, frequency, vibration, you will start to unlock the secrets of the universe. And guess what science is using a lot? They're working with vibration. They're working with frequency to understand portals, to understand how things work. And it's quite fascinating that Nikola Tesla back in, you know, the late 1800s was talking about this because he was onto it. And more people are going to start to tune in and then be accepting of that. But there will always be a part of the population that will overnight either, you know, deem them as deities or demons or devils. And then you're going to have another part of the population that says, no, this is just our natural way of the universe, that we're not alone in the universe, and that we've been called to that Star Trek moment to go boldly where no one has gone before, to explore the stars. And that's what we're moving into. But, you know, it's going to be, I think AI is going to be quite transformative in the years ahead.
I was looking for Carl Sagan's, you know, final interview when he talked to Charlie Rose. It was May 27th, 1996, and he issued a strong warning, kind of like Eisenhower with the whole military-industrial complex in his final speech. But Carl Sagan said, "We've arranged a society on science and technology in which nobody understands anything about science and technology. And this combustible mixture of ignorance and power sooner or later is going to blow up in our faces." I mean, who is running the science and technology in a democracy if the people don't know anything about it? Now, a little context is we may have about 100 years or a couple thousand years ahead technology in existence now behind the curtain, if you want to call it government contractors, the military, whoever, it doesn't really matter. We don't have to get into the details. But the point is limitless energy. Look at MH370. I think it's Ashton Forbes who's really been keen on that. The videos of the 3 orbs circling around MH370 and the plane disappearing and so on. So there's a lot of
today. Yeah. They've never found today.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potentiality there as a subject to explore. I don't think you can just ridicule it right off the bat. You could in the 70s and 80s, but we've watched every other theory come full circle at this point. So I don't know. There's a lot more discoveries to be had. I think science can be upended like that, what we thought we knew. And I think we could be shocked 5 years from now looking back at like how little we knew this entire time. I would just add, you know, if you had asked me 2 months ago, 3 months ago, a year ago, back when we first interviewed about Pleiadians, Andromedans, Orion, I don't know how to say people from Orion, Arcturians, no, Arcturians, Lyrans is what I was trying to say. I would have been scratching my head and said, look, it's a big universe. I would have said what you just said earlier, Star Wars, point to the Cantina scene. But now you get experience, and experience trumps all. So I can say Pleiadians exist, Arcturians exist, Lyrans exist. I've had angels 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, March or so, start giving some of their original origin stories, where they're from, Andromeda, Orion, Sirius. I mean, they're from there now. They're non-corporeal, you know, energy-based light forms, life forms. They can show up as full humans. I would just argue you have to be really chill and relaxed about this. And if you're gung-ho, be like, hey, I could use a couple angels on my path to kind of bump into me as I walk into the dry cleaners and wish me a good day. Sparkly, high vibe, happy, If you want to grab a cup of coffee with them, do it. You'll have 45 minutes of the best conversation of your life. How do we, again, just allow a little bit more, maybe a little bit of humor? I don't have any alien jokes to use. I better get a few. But how do you approach this in almost a philosophical way? And let's tie it back to, maybe we can have you just share the Spencer story again, what you saw. Mention Arthur Findlay College. You go through the ropes to go there. I think we've had two other guests, or will have had two other guests who have attended there in the whole out of 204 guests. So it's a really select college, not easy to get through. It puts you through, it would be like Harvard for getting your, PhD. It would be like theology school, Harvard Divinity School.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a walk in the park to go to Arthur Findlay. But can you give us the Coast Guard story first and what happened to the crew? You were down in the engine room coming up, taking a break, right?
Yeah, so we were off the coast of Puerto Rico, and we're steaming. So we're underway at night, and what's called darkened ship. So we don't give any navigational lights at all. So it's completely pitch dark. We're hundreds of miles off the coast of Puerto Rico, which, if you look at a map, Puerto Rico is the tip of the Bermuda Triangle, a very hot spot for what's known as USOs, underwater submerged objects. And at this time, this would have been in 1999. This is when Hellbop was still coming through in the sky. So imagine walking out on the fantail, the stern of the ship. It's completely dark. Our rudder, our props have kicked up some blue algae. So we've got a blue algae trail behind us, kind of a bluish cobalt blue, kind of like your shirt trailing behind us. You look up in the sky and all you see is just the Milky Way. Like you could reach out and grab a star. It's just like right there. And then there's Hellbop right there, just going overhead. And we would get off watch and we'd go up sometimes to the bridge to just debrief, have a cup of coffee, then hit the rack. And it was during this time on the bridge that we had a contact off of the starboard bow, less than a football field length away. And the lookout saw it, the radar pinged it. It was documented. And yeah, exactly. That brilliant picture, brilliant. Yeah, that cobalt blue. So you lose where the sky starts and the sea ends. It was all just one. That's one of my favorite memories visually, was the sky, Hellbop, that blue algae trail behind us. And then, a few minutes later, I would have my first encounter as an experiences with these balls of light, the same balls of light that you see in 1976 Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the exact same thing that Spielberg was given this script. We don't know by who, but we know that even back in 76, we know that there's interactions that were going on. You talked about Eisenhower. When President Eisenhower had his farewell address as president, he replaced who as the previous president that supposedly Hubert Hurt, or after Franklin D. Roosevelt had passed, then
Truman?
Truman, thank you. I don't know why I said Hoover. Truman became the president, and that's supposedly when the actual doctrines of first contact and agreements with our government started taking place. And then Eisenhower became president after the great, construction of the United States, and he talked about the industrial military complex, because I believe he had knowledge that we were no longer alone universe and there was technology there. And if you just jump from then to now and look at where our technology, that just didn't spring out of nowhere. That's usually reverse engineered from something. Yep. So when we were on the bridge having this encounter with all these lights, your mind tries to debunk and rationalize what you're seeing. Is it a weather anomaly? Is it some sort of something in the ocean? Is it something? Yeah.
It went from underneath the water, though, into the air, did it not?
Yeah, and it danced and it separated into balls of light, and it did this. But Michael, the crazy thing is, this is pre-drone era, because now we can talk about drones, right? There was no drones in 1999. The technology wasn't even there. Shoot, I could barely get internet on the ship, and I used to have to write letters to my wife and mail them when we would come in port, because internet technology was not there in 99. And these balls of light just danced off our bridge for about, it felt maybe like 12 to 15 minutes, but it was a long time. And you just sat there in awe. And what the crazy thing about the whole thing was, you knew they knew we were watching them. There was an intelligence there. Yep. That is the Cutter Spencer. And right off that bridge, and there was something there that was intelligent, that I knew was intelligent, And after that event, nobody talked about it. It just, and this happens more. You see this now, even with the F-18 pilots, from the Stennis coming out, from the gimbal that was released, the technology. They were more worried about the technology of the military than what the gimbal was being tracked, because they have this new high-speed software and applications that can track these objects that move way too fast, way beyond the laws of physics and gravity. They defy the laws of physics and gravity, and no human could be in one of these little, Tic Tacs or UAPs and then turn it 90 degrees at 5,000 miles per hour and without splatting on the, organically on the windshield, right? So a lot of these pilots that I watched a lot of these guest speakers when I was down in Oregon at this UFO fest. They talked about that the military doesn't want to talk about it, but now they're creating a To the Stars Academy. Lead singer from Blink 182 started this, and a lot of the pilots are coming out because they say it's a threat to national security, and that these objects are zipping through our atmosphere all the time. So that's when I became an experienced and a full believer of something bigger than ourselves, because these balls of light are the same balls of light that I saw as a little kid in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Now, again, synchronicities, coincidences, our mind will try to rationalize that, or, just, oh, that didn't happen. The mind is a very powerful machine, if you will, including our ego. And, it's one of the things I've learned in my spiritual pathways, and Socrates talked about that true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing. And so I've learned that in this pathway, I've had experiences, but that doesn't make me an expert. I just know that there's something. I just don't know how to explain it. And maybe we're not yet. It's kind of like you talked about Carl Sagan in the movie Contact. At the end, it was her dad that came to Jodie Foster after she dropped through this technology portal that rebuilt based on their instructions. And it was her dad walking on the beach in Miami, because that's a way, it wouldn't scare her. It would give her a way to say, this is how it's been done for billions of years, and it's small steps, it's small moves. But I think we're going to be on a big move in the Roaring 20s of transformation, and acknowledging that we're not alone in this universe, finally, officially, once and for all. And it starts, I call it the drip, drip, drip. If you've been following my work, you've been following my shows, I've been saying this since I think I started officially coming out in 2017, where I talk about this drip, drip, drip. And as it gets more and more, the drip just gets more and more, to finally where it's just going to be released. And now we're having, Senate hearings on it. That's never been done before in our government, ever.
And the actor from Hill Street Blues, who was in Disturbia.
Oh, yeah.
He was the one that played her father, Jodie Foster's father. Yeah. Now, that would just be a light being, an alien, whatever you want to call it, unconditional love, light being, showing up in a form that was acceptable to Jodie to have the conversation. I would argue that that's kind of the point of this. You're not going to need a huge $7 billion project that took the world's, the thing that dropped them through time travel, space travel. I would argue that the populace itself is just going to be a more aware, more conscious, more relaxed, and start having direct experiences that in a way goes right through science and kind of not blows it up, leaves it intact, but there's a thinking level going on, and the thinkers have got to do thinking, and they've got to have everything proven. But that's kind of the 2-year to 30-year route, and it's a little more instantaneous if you're it doesn't have to be classic spirituality or cultural or philosophical or this indigenous, whatever, but there's something to it. The tie-in there is the heart. Everyone's got one, and it's kind of the Christmas Carol. The beginning of the book, we know Scrooge was not such a hot figure, piece of cheese. We don't know what it was that had him all upset at the beginning. It was only about money, but his life force, his connection to all, he wasn't talking about love. He was dental floss for all that stuff. By the end of the book, which was only a 30-second transformation in the middle of the night, and it's 79 pages though stretched out, dream time, lucid dream, whatever you want to call it. By the end of the book, the guy is the greatest joy bringer ever. He still does good business. And he actually has a field that people, when they see him, want to say hi and chat with him, and he's smiling. I would argue there's a group of people smiling on this planet that are probably interacting way ahead of science. And there's not much point in trying to go to the thinking route to explain anything. You'd have to voluntarily, with free will, want to simply do some listening, take a breath, slow down, do some listening, and you can have any answers to any questions. But that's way too easy of a solution or an answer, which I would argue Einstein was doing that the whole time. He was doing some good listening. Okay, tell us, you didn't get a solar radiation burn from the experience on the Spencer like they did in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember the
Oh,
actor getting, you didn't get
yeah.
any of that.
No, they were too far off. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be interesting. No, I've never been asked that question if we would have got closer, but it seemed like when we turned into them, the more we thought we'd get close, the distance remained the same. Yeah, but that would be interesting if you did get close. Like, would you be half sunburned
Hmm.
from the experience? But you said something earlier that another coincidence that makes me think in my prospecting, and you talked about the Arthur Findlay College, because the Arthur Findlay College is somewhere that I found along my journey when I started to prospect for all of these bigger questions of psychic and mediumship and intuition and spiritualism and healing and death and dying. And that led me to this college in UK, north of London, called the Arthur Findlay College. And I've been studying there for over a decade. I was just there in December of this last year. Since the pandemic, it's the first time I've been back, and we actually focused in on a lot of metaphysical stuff this time, more metaphysical. And one of the things you had said about Orion, which I've always found interesting, and again, you can say this is a synchronicity or a coincidence, but the pyramids actually, latitude and longitude actually correspond to the three stars of Orion's belt, right? That's actually how they were created. And they know that they are mathematically in line with Orion's belt. But here's the crazy thing is the latitude and longitude of the Giza pyramids connecting to Orion is the exact same mathematical equation for the speed of light. So how would it be that these three pyramids align astrology to the Orion's belt, and yet it's the mathematical equation for the speed of light? But we don't understand how to move past the speed of light yet based on our science and our physics. But what are the odds that that number mathematically would line up directly as the equation for the latitude and longitude of the pyramids? Now, that's always been fascinating to me, the coincidences of, but I don't believe there's coincidences. I believe that, for those of us that, are ancient aliens, I believe that our cultures based on, cave paintings, based on paintings from, the 1100s to storytelling to thousands of witnesses, we have the proof that we're not alone. It's just the willingness to accept that we're not alone. And some people don't want that. Status quo is just fine. I'm just going to do my job, not think about the bigger picture. And, because that scares me. And so, if you're out there with all these questions in this journey and you're wanting to be in it, like I told you at the beginning of the show, the intuitive prospector is my business name, but it's a concept. It's teaching people to move past their fears, move past their doubts. And, as Oscar Wilde wrote, he said, just, be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. So if you have these questions, go prospect and be yourself to understand what these questions are that you have, because the only way you're going to learn it is by doing it yourself, not by what I say, not by what you say. And some pretty amazing things, and it's what I call soul adventures, can take place if you have the courage to do it. It takes courage, because through this, I'll call it through this alchemy of evolution, even at the not just even at the individual state, at our species level, this evolution, this alchemy, which is the changing. Alchemy is the changing of who you are. If you have the courage and the patience and the trust and the grace and the faith, like you talked about, you're going to move into some pretty amazing opportunities. You're going to meet some very interesting people. Sit down in a coffee shop with an angel and have a conversation. Some people may say that, oh, that's just fairy tale. Is it? Is it?
Dr. Karen Wyatt, I've got her all over social media right now. She gave me permission to pull about 7 minutes from her August 30th, 2024 show. It'll be released then. She had grabbed me for 2 days of service. She had a medical condition. I don't see your questions or answers. I just make sure you're good at listening. Hint, everyone's good at listening. You just actually have to do it, which means slow way down and actually do listening. You can't be like worried about it. And so that's where Mark comes in to help you calm down and trust what you got. So it's sort of like a mini Arthur Findlay College to help you get into that heart. But she grabbed me, and at the very end of the 2 days, she mentioned what it was. She's a retired physician. So all her physician friends are doing the medical thinking route. You got to do this. You got to take this exam, MRI this, da, 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 da. She got her answer, and she got it over 2 days. And then I got a big tip. Thank you very much, Karen. And then I always suggest these days, why not? That's the big thing here. what are you willing to allow for just in regular life? Are you having enough fun? I mean, the answer is probably not on all of it. We're all thinking too much. And one angel named Charlotte said 7% less thinking a day is the Olympic gold medal for us all. So I put it to her, when you go for those walks on the beach, ask for an angel to show up. She might have had a conversation for half an hour. We'll, see what the show says. But the point is, she's not the only one that's had direct experiences. I'll put up a couple photos. We're not going to do anything just yet. I'll blow you sage. We'll see if you want to do a little listening, because think of it this way. There's Mark's opinion, there's my opinion, I'll say something, but we're surrounded right now with thousands, tens of thousands of loving figures. Maybe you'll do a little listening and share what you get, or it'll ping another quadrant of Mark Lainhart's, what you like to talk about, and we'll get you propelled into some new directions. But some sage first, with your permission, from Texas to Seattle. We've done this before, no big deal, but it's the whole point. We think 2 screens. There's no way I can light some of this and blow smoke through 2 screens, but I've done it for 60 plus show hosts in the last 2.5 years, to New Zealand, Australia, Germany. Let your schnoggin do the schnoggin thing. It's the Zen thing, smelling without smelling, or feeling without feeling. Your heart knows what to do, is my point on all this. Give yourself permission to let go. Ask the universe to make it nice. If you don't mind saying angels, tell angels, hey, help me out of my head into my heart to smell a little bit of sage from Texas. And then why stay linear and catch amazing sage, which is plant medicine, like you were just saying? Ask for a flower smell, and Mark, for you especially, have Jaguar Spirit growl a little in a friendly way. Nothing to make you jump and look over your shoulder, but catch something jungly that you're like, exactly. Because I really want to put up Jaguar later if I can remember. I've got 3 photos of Jaguar for you to connect with. The whole ayahuasca thing was powerful, but you can also have the ayahuasca experience just by being. I don't know how else to say it. We'll let you decide what steps you want to take. Are you already getting the sage? No problema?
Yeah, and I would say, just to add to that, because we're working at the quantum level now. Quantum thinking is quantum connection through a digital transformation format. And so as Michael is bringing that sage into smelling that sage, feeling that smoke, this is the evolution of our mindset, working at a quantum reality, because we're not physically in person with each other. We're digitally, but working. That'd be so cool too, Michael, if we could visually see that smoke as it came through on your side, as you push through, see it come on my side through. Wouldn't that be
We've
awesome?
done that visually with, you see a pink ball light that's Joy, the angel, in your hand, or in my hand first. I push it through 2 screens and you see it in your hand, bring it in for a hug. But we haven't gotten that on tape. We have had whooshes go by. We've had like 5 of these now. Heather and Angel flew by, one South African who lives in France. The other South African who lives in Germany. I don't know why South Africans, but you see the ball light come up. We just had interdimensional Jesuses, plural. It was an assistant teaching professor from Arizona State University. I saw it here and I was like, whoa. And I've stuck all those up all over my social media because I don't mind making fun of myself. My face literally goes, and I did the talk song, Send Me an Angel, to some of those videos because it's hilarious. I go, and because you see a ball light go up in the middle of taping, I'm like this, and it says "Send Me an Angel," that music band from the 90s, I guess, playing. And so I thought it was hilarious. I even got a couple of funny comments from people I know who were like, that was hilarious. So like whatever you'll allow for. Even yesterday's taping, we had stopped taping for a couple that's been doing doctor stuff for 30 years. They're incredibly just illuminated. Whoa, their energy is incredible. They're happy. As soon as we hit stop, I saw light tinsel. I don't know how, like the Christmas tree silver tinsel. I saw it. They didn't see it, and I didn't get it on film, so I got nothing to put up today. But I saw it twice, and I think I saw Archangel Raphael's, the tiniest softball of light. And none of that matters but I have photos of angels. So I'm going to put some up for just looking at first. Here are photos I took, back in the day. There's 4 triangles that are Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, archangels. There's a Charlotte, a Joy, my guardian angel, Min, Plato, the philosopher. You can see the old man's face.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But what they started to say was, like, back in March, like, Joy's kind of cosmic. She's like what Mary says about love. Love is everywhere. Open your eyes to see love. That's almost the metaphor for what I was trying to say. It's not about thinking that's going to get you there. You can think, you got to do it. You got to do research papers, FOIA requests. You got to have chats, conferences. You got to chase. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like everything else. It ain't going to come from up here. It's going to be the more you relax here, the better actor you are, the better business you do. The more the family loves you, you love the family, the more your dog loves you. You're taking them for the walk, not talking about the walk. That said, here's Joy. You want to get a topic from her or just a reminder? Because remember, she's here and now and here to help us all expand. What has she got for us for a reminder on something we've talked about?
Hmm. So it's interesting because you said joy, but I was actually drawn more to the Plato card when you showed Plato, um, because he always talked about, and I love that face, and you know, when you, if you can come in closer, I don't know if I can see the face, but for your viewers, yeah, you can definitely see the face of Plato. But when you showed me that, there was a quote that came up for me, and it talked about never discourage anyone who continuously makes progress, no matter how slow. And through that quote that dropped in, it was like, oh well, there's joy in that. You're on your own journey. There's no timeline. You have us as experts with our own experiences, but just, you know, it would come back to, from that card, what I would draw from that as well is I'm getting Eckhart Tolle here about the present moment. Find the joy
Hmm.
not in a future that's not guaranteed, in a past you can't change, but find the joy in this interview. Find the joy right now in the present moment, because that's where the true power lies. What is joy, right? Joy, is that something that we plan to experience, or is it something that we can experience right now in the physical moments of our life, versus, oh, I'll wait for joy tomorrow, or I didn't get joy in the past, how do I get it? So that's the message that would come from that card, the combination of Plato, about, just make progress no matter how slow, because it's your race, it's not anybody else's race. But our society is so caught up on what other people are doing in social media. I say,
That's
social
the
media.
whole shtick. That's the whole shtick of your intuitive prospecting thing, is to stick with it no matter what. You never know what you're about to discover next. If you just stay here and slow down a little bit, you'll
Yeah.
get it eventually.
And I want to go back to even how excited you were. We were talking about working at the quantum level, because that's how we're moving now. If that smoke, that sage would have, we would have both seen it come through on my side. We both be, and we believe in this, and we do.
I'd be like, oh,
But you even said yourself, you're like, I saw a ball of light. Like, we get so excited when we actually see it. And it
yep.
goes back to with the opening of the show when I said, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I could visually hear and Claire factorial here, smell the sage coming through, because we're working on the quantum. But a lot of people want to believe it when they see it first. And I would challenge you to say, don't see it to believe it. Flip script, believe it. Then you'll start to see it here, like opening up this third eye, and then you start to achieve the things that are greater and bigger than yourself.
No, I
So,
think I just had a panel with Britt Elders, who I mentioned. She's again done, I think a dozen books. She's CEO of Shirley MacLaine. She's been in Arizona forever. She's wildly intuitive, but she's been investigating UFOs, Mexico and abroad and elsewhere. And she's done film, and she's come at it though as an investigative journalist, author type, first. But she was on a panel with Elisa Richmond, who's absolutely fabulous intuitive healer out of Canada, and also Dr. Christian Strang, who's in Colorado. The three of them did direct seeing. The problem is, for the audience, they're not going to see, but you're trusting that the three collectively saw. If I was in my living room, we'd have more space behind me. You could go ahead and see Plato here, Joy here, then an Arcturian and a Pleiadian. Are people ready for that? Yes, some, and I wouldn't have been ready 2 years ago. But the point is, the yard or a whole football field away at a very safe distance gets a lot easier for the intellect. With that, I'm going to do one Eckhart Tolle quote, which is what you were just talking about. Tolle said, ego implies unawareness. Awareness and ego cannot coexist. So ego, intellect, thinking, whatever you want to call it, knowing to the preclusion of possibility. Unfortunately, a good portion of science right now, it's based on, concrete knowing, which only lasts a week, 2 years at most, and then another discovery comes in. And then awareness is just love, limitlessness, timelessness, the whole connecting to everything, the stuff you talk about. It's kind of either or. You can't be half pregnant. Here's Joy again. Can you get one more reminder for us all from her? And she's
yeah,
got a peppy, high 28-year-old voice. If you really let go, you can hear, hey, and you go, whoa.
yeah. From the format of joy, it's more for about use your imagination to where you want to go. Use joy as a diving board to challenge yourself to do the things, you know, maybe there's something that you're scared of. Challenge yourself to find joy in moving past your fears. I know Einstein talked a lot about logic will get you from A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. So use that as a springboard of the things that you're scared of. You know, to move past that fear, which for me, I always say fear is false evidence appearing real. Face everything and rise, because what we don't understand leads us or can lead us from movies to learned behavior to how we were raised to religion to things that are fearful or scary when they don't have to be. And that includes your spiritualism. That includes angels. When you talked about when I had that encounter on my hike with that 3-story angel in the mist, I was quite intimidating. Like, holy smokes, are you going to just squash me as a giant, as a bug? Like, but then I realized, no, that's my imagination. That's my, you know, fear-based energy coming in. It's like, no, we're sitting here at a meditation on a hike, and here's a 3-story angel in the fog or the mist of the waterfall, smiling at me, saying, "Hey, we're here. We've been here. We will be here." You know, again, it comes back to just because you don't see it doesn't mean it is not here, and science backs that up. Telescope, microscope, James Webb telescope, everything that we don't see. There are instruments and tools of science and technology that allows us to see even deeper into our universe and deeper into ourselves. And there's going to be more to come with AI along this pathway.
And if you caught any given person at any given moment, I'd argue most of their day, they're actually unconsciously wide open, but the intellect will give them no credit for that. So it's really just slowing way down to appreciate what we think isn't important, those slower moments, you know, flipping a light switch, actually petting the dog. Those moments are your doorway into opening openness, the Zen thing, the gateless gate, the doorless door. Hey, here's Archangel Michael a bunch of ways. Direct, right there out of the 4, plus over the house, all the archangels, but I'm just going to put up his straight shot. He said something once, set your intent, what you were saying earlier, set your intent and repeat as a mantra.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to Archangel Michael and get a great quote from him right now and repeat that over and over again. What do you get from Archangel Michael?
Yeah, so I get with Archangel Michael, the guidance, and what downloads for me is, you know, part of the spiritual journey is that call to seek, that, you know, that your spiritual journey begins with this deep yearning. And so put that card up one more time. Yep. Just that guidance, right? That guidance of a call. Guidance is a call to seek answers, a purpose, a deeper understanding of the mysteries of life, of who we are. And it for me, in my journey as the intuitive prospector, it set me on that, you know, path of, you know, self-reflection and questioning the bigger things of life. And again, things that are not necessarily seen, just like the wind. We see the effects of the wind, but we don't see the wind with our physical eye. And that is just questioning the nature of our own existence, and that guidance of, you know, why are you here? Out of all of the infinity of time, why this moment in time? And is it just one moment in time, or is it multiple? There's a series on Apple TV called Dark Matter about multiple universes, or Three Body Problem on Netflix.
I'm 3 episodes in on that. It's a little dark, but it's that's why they call it Dark Matter.
But the concept of multi-dimensional construct, is there another Michael and Mark in a different universe or different frequency and vibration having the same interview right now, same time, different context based on the reality of what that time frame or that vibration would be, right? We don't know, but it makes, you know, that's that imagination that Einstein was talking about. Logic will get you from A to B, but it's going to be the imagination that takes you over that top to unlock doors, you know, through meditation, through I personally believe that the future of medicine, you know, we can talk about medicine real quick because I've gone through a pretty transformative back surgery where I have now 3D printed titanium, 3D printed. Think about that concept. You said turn on a light switch. If you would have gone back 100 years ago and say, oh, I just walk in and take for granted turning on a light switch, think about the scientists that failed how many times, 10,000 times just to get that one light bulb to have indoor lighting that we take for granted. But medicine right now, I have hardware in my low back that is 3D printed. If you would have said, oh, Mark, 10 years ago, we're going to have 3D printed titanium, that's something that sounds out of Star Trek, but yet is now a reality. And that's where science fiction becomes science fact. And it's in my body. I literally have a bunch of 3D printed titanium in my low back from the major surgery I had back in April. And it shows you the advancements through robotics, through medicine, how this surgery, even just 5-10 years ago, would have been a recovery time of a year with plastic inserts. Now I'm using 3D printed titanium inserts and screws and brackets, and my recovery time is only 2 to 4 months. So we can see that as literally a witness and an actual guinea pig, if you will, of evolution of just of our medicine, because they used robots on me using holographic images to actually map my spine out, make sure to put the screws literally in the brackets in a place that they didn't have to literally cut me open and then put in manually. They did it with robotics, and it's quite impressive. So imagine what the next 20 years, just based on medicine and AI and the incorporation of the AI consciousness becoming that singularity of how it's going to merge with technology and biology. And that scares some people because of the Hollywood movies, but biology and technology are merging, and our species is going to look a lot different 100 years from now.
And you mentioned Star Trek, which, the one in the 60s with, William Shatner and Spock, Leonard Nimoy. I mean, they were talking about multidimensional stuff back then. They even had the animated series. They still had William Shatner's voice and Leonard Nimoy's voice. But if you remember the bridge of the Enterprise, it looked a little different from the 1960s, the animated version. It was closer to the modern version where they had different aliens today and all the, Chris Pine plays Kirk.
Yeah.
So here's one who played the backup to Lieutenant Uhuru, the communications officer.
Yeah,
and
I remember
she's a Cation, which is basically the word cat with an extra letter I in there. But that would be the Lyran population of galactic figures, and they do exist. I don't know how they have feline heads. I don't have to worry about the details. Not important. None of us have to worry about the details. There's details, and then there's love is love, and there's a new consciousness that's emerging somehow. Call it a little more gentleness. Like there's a lot of divides. There's a lot of ways you can get hung up and react, resist, reject stuff today. But I think, in a way, I think I'm pretty proud of America for all that's happened. I think there's an incredible amount of built-in patience that people have, period, for anything and everyone at this point, since we feel like we've seen it all. I think everybody is ready for a little more gentleness, kindness, a little less words and judging, and a little more, whatever you want to call the sparkly pixie stuff out of, Peter Pan or a Disney movie, or love, compassion, kindness, sparkliness. I mean, kids get it. Kids get it. Children get it. Dogs get it. Why can't adults who are adulting pretty hard get it? To that point, I'll put up two angels at once. Let one of them or both of them reach you. Charlotte Min, one's got an Orion background. She'll tell you she was probably Nefertiti back in ancient Egypt. People can close their eyes and have a lucid dream with her. So 5 minutes of our time is 10 minutes over there. And you can experience smells, the feels of being in ancient Egypt. Min, it's more like Mother Hawaii, light waves of energy and water, soft-spoken professor. You can catch Hawaii right now, Costa Rica, whatever floats your boat. If it's Baja, Mexico Beach somewhere, but breathe, 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 folks at home, through the mouth or through the nose. Either way, your shoulders are moving like you're in a yoga class with a mean professor yelling, breathe. That would be moi. Allow, allow, allow. And if you want to hear a little wave action, if your eyes go closed, you can see a vista, a beach, the ocean. You can even see a loved one, a pet, all the way down the beach. Keep it really far away so you don't go too leaky. What are you getting from Charlotte or Min, or both? They're kind of a duo.
Yes, the teacher aspect, I get the discussion of exploring those inner realms, right? Embarking with your spiritual journey to, it's almost an invitation to explore the inner realms of our consciousness. And I believe that's where we're going. I believe that this technology and this AI that is fast approaching us is going to have, people exploring these inner realms, right? It's like, again, we're on a round planet, so there is no up or down. But in our minds, we think that heaven is up or hell is down. It's a place. It's like, no, you can't go up or down on a round planet metaphysically. It's impossible. And so, exploring these inner realms of our consciousness is something that's, like you said, the younger generation is not buying into a 9-to-5 job, working 30 years at the same place. These younger generations are wanting to explore their world, their journey while they're here, and not necessarily working a 9-to-5 job, like I said. So there's a change in the younger generations. I think are more awakened to the bigger picture than our generations, right? Because again, these institutionalized ways of instructions or how you should be, where the younger generation is saying, no, I'm going to be myself and I'm going to go explore this world, where for some of us, we got there at a little bit later. We got a little late start date, I guess, so we're kind of catching up to the younger generations, because I learn a lot from the young people. There was a lot of young people when I was at the Arthur Findlay College in December, and the perspective of what they're seeing of our world is quite interesting to me, because again, I was born in the 70s, and the world of the 70s is a completely different world today, and continuously getting different by the day, right? We wake up and there's changes. There's all sorts of different, news cycles. Everything is, connected, where growing up, we weren't connected in the same way that we're connected now. There's a blessing and curse to that. But that message from the card was, I would challenge your viewers to explore the inner realms of self-awareness, because through that, and I believe the message is, I think we're in this period of the roaring 20s of transformation and ascension and chaos. We will have this, I keep calling it the great coming together, that as a global perspective, as a human species with the same heart, the same blood, we may look differently than one another, and we may have different, likes and dislikes, but at the end of the day, it's the same heart and it's the same blood and the same brain that makes us, operate in the physical matter. This great coming together, the question is, what is the catalyst that brings people together at a global scale? Is it something through nature? Is it something extraterrestrial? Is it something of the world actually changing? We know the world changes. So
let's ask Charlotte. What does she say the biggest, is it just love and a little bit of more consciousness, paying attention, slowing down and listening?
For me on that card, love only gets us so far, but we have to cultivate mindfulness. We have to cultivate presence through mindfulness, with the power of love as a support, as a backup. Mindfulness and presence of what is the world going to look like 10 years from now? What can we do today through the power of love, through the power of compassion and kindness and caring? How do we plant the seeds today for the future we want 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 100 years from now?
That's these two all over again. That's Charlotte and Min, but more metallic balls of light. The cover of my book, I typed as I saw balls of light, and it's not me who wrote that book, Listening to Angels. Very gentle.
I'd also say from this too, the message I'm getting is embracing transformation and growth. That's, I think, a part of what we're seeing in our society with all the chaos and the divide and the politics, is people are not embracing and can't keep up with the transformation and growth of our consciousness, right? It's like lighting a fuse, and once that fuse lit, it just takes off. And, I have learned that the spiritual journey is all about transformation and growth, right? Caterpillar to butterfly. And what the caterpillar called the end of the world, the butterfly called a whole new beginning. And somewhere in between is where we're at with this cocoon phase, right? But I believe if we dive into the depths of our being and we confront our fears and our insecurities and our limiting beliefs through mindfulness, through presence, through embracing transformation and growth, and we're willing to explore and have the courage to heal our past wounds, right? There's courage. That takes courage to do that. That inner work, that self-work is not easy. And I can say that because I have done that. But, get to that communion with whatever the divine is for you. The feminine divine. For me, with plant medicine, here's a funny story. When I did my first experience with plant medicine on the foundations of getting healing and connecting, that's what ayahuasca is all about. It was the presence of the divine feminine, not God, not man, not, the religion I was raised in was very misogynist. There was no presence of women except for Mother Mary, no saints that were considered to be, of women, divine, feminine. But here I am having my 3-day plant medicine experience, and I am connecting with the divine, and she's talking to me as grandmother to say, well, of course we wouldn't be men. You put a bunch of men on the planet, they would not get anything done, and there would be no life would not continue on, right? Because women bring forth life. And because I asked her, when I started to have this awareness through the power of the DMT, which is this plant medicine, the first question I asked was Jesus real? Was Jesus represented in the way that we know him today in history? And she said, yes, he was very real, but no, he was misrepresented in many different ways through historical records to, determine if he was the Christ consciousness, but he was a very powerful man and what he did. But what people don't understand is he reported up to me through the hierarchy of the divinity. And I was like, wait, God's a woman? And she just, these interactions that you have, and so much that I'm reading a new book called The Lost Years of Jesus, and it's writings about him going outside of the Holy Land, going to places like India, Tibet, Nepal, to learn about meditation, to learn about vibrational chanting. I believe that the future of medicine is going to be in music and sound healing. Edgar Casey talked about this. So Jesus was, because you hear about Jesus later in scripture, but I've always asked the question, well, what did he do when he was young, growing up? Like, where are all these stories? If we're storytellers, then why is that part missing? This book explores that as a young teenager, and it's quite fascinating. So that's, again, get off social media, start reading more books. If you're curious about connecting with the divine, if you want to embrace transformation and growth, if you want to explore those inner realms that we're talking about today, if you have that call to seek and prospect, you're not going to find it. You may find it on the internet, but you'll find a lot of great knowledge in books that have been written. And there was a reason books were outlawed back in the day, because they gave knowledge and information. And we know that education leads to knowledge, knowledge leads to wisdom, wisdom hopefully leads us to enlightenment and peace. But even when you get to enlightenment, even Buddha said, what'd you do when you reached enlightenment? I still went out and did my garden, right? I got to enlightenment, but I still went and tended my garden. So that is the journey.
There's the student that runs up to the Zen master and says, what about it when I seek to be Buddha? And the teacher says, what a tremendous waste of energy. And then the student quickly comes up with, well, what about it when I don't waste energy? And the teacher said, then you are Buddha. Now, I'm going to read a passage from a book, just like 15 seconds here, but there's no way I wrote this. I saw balls of light as I was typing. Blame angels. It's 100% angels. But if anybody thinks I wrote this, great. If you've heard me talk, this probably isn't going to be me. Being is why is being the key to all of this, which is what you were just saying 4 minutes ago? Being is believing in all. You do not need to be like anyone else. Be you. Smile more, think less. Do not permit others to dictate your well-being. Own your own being in life. This is angels talking to us all. Love more and allow more. You can be happy now in this very moment without a single reason. Again, this is why it's not about words or concepts, which are often just another form of egoic thinking. Always keep releasing so as to not allow walls to be rebuilt. Ego. What to release exactly is never that important. Those are mere details. Keep releasing. Ego likes to judge everything and build walls. Ego likes to offer knowing as a form of false security. Step away from this and return to a peaceful life. Follow your path in life one step at a time. Enjoy it. Let go of perfectionist or defined behaviors such as roles. Embrace the awesome life given to you and each one of us. Just be. Listen to everything, for everything around you is always your instruction. Love is in everything. Open your eyes to find love. There's only one life, not two. Be in the moment. Compassion is within all too. There are just many levels of awareness in man. Everyone can grow. So with that one, can I put up Jaguar? 3 different photos of Jaguar. Jaguar spirit, if you want to call it, but the first one's authenticity, inner being. And I think you're going to have fun with this. If anyone wants to put their hand out into the room, they can feel a short, wiry fur. It's the opposite of the soft, shampooed, plush tiger from India that you can feel. Here's Jaguar inner authenticity. What are you getting from this one, Mark, especially with your ayahuasca experience?
Yeah, because the Jaguar is very much tied to many spots. And what I get from this picture, those eyes too are just so beautiful. The many spots that make up who we are. We have many different spots within our own journey, and the beauty of who you are. Like you said, be yourself. Oscar Wilde wrote about this all the time. Be yourself, because everybody is taken with your own spots, with all of your scars. If you've been doing this for a while, like I have, maybe you're rounding third base, from a baseball analogy, come running around third base, ready to slide into home plate with all of your injuries, with all of your scars, with all of your spots, because that is life. That is the journey of life. And everything that has made you, your past doesn't define who you are and doesn't make you who you are. You define who you are right now in the present moment, right? That's what defines you. And the Jaguar is all about strength, all about endurance, all about speed, but also, take the time to be present and just honor thyself, and to know that all those spots that you have as the as that picture represents, that's all of your different soul adventures, all of your failures, all of your successes. You know, one of the principles as a spiritualist we talk about is the seventh principle is the eternal progress open to every soul. So you're a soul, you're a spiritual, energetic being having this human experience in this physical flesh suit of matter vibrating at this frequency. So enjoy it, enjoy the present moment, and you know, be accepting of yourself, regardless of how you look or how other people see you. Be yourself, because everybody else is already taken.
Here's Jaguar, photo number 2 of the 3. Here's fluidity. She's crossing a river. And what are you getting for a message this way?
This, to me, that connection to nature, right? She's in the water. She's, you know, probably prowling on the hunt, looking for something. Again, that connection with the divine, connection with the nature, seeking, the call to seek. That picture reminds me, I'm coming back to this call to seek and to, you know, connect to nature, because nature is going to take you into, you know, my whole 3-day plant medicine was all nature. I was out in the middle of nowhere, completely off grid, and all we had was nature. And it was quite powerful, quite transformative. But, you know, that picture reminds me to connect with nature, but also be on the prowl, because there's a lot of questions that we as humans have. So be on the prowl to do that, you know, seek those inner realms, to, you know, seek what the questions you have, right? Because we all have these different questions, and yeah, that's what I would get from that.
Number 3, this one, put the seatbelt on. This is putting it all together. Repose, you know, inner awareness, the whole shebang. 1 + 1 = 11. But what are you getting from Jaguar now?
Again, just to be present, enjoy all of your successes, enjoy all of your failures, because it's those combinations that make up who you are right now. And so this picture, just lounging, taking some time, you know, one of my mantras, as I always talk about, take the time to disconnect so you can make the time to reconnect. I've written about it, I've podcasted about it. It's very important to take time for yourself, time for self-care, time for reflection and rejuvenation. We're such a busy species, you know, through capitalism, through our institutions, through money, through career, and now social media, and where everybody's, you know, on the phone and not connecting. If you really want to truly dive into who you are in that spiritual journey and that spiritual path, then you need to disconnect. You have to unlearn a lot of what you've learned, and you need to disconnect so you can connect to the natural Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi of nature, the Wi-Fi of your vibration. You know, that's what I would say to that.
Beautiful. Hey, I'd say, you know, go to a mirror, and you're going to need a good half an hour to 2 hours, but you're going to be crying or laughing very quickly. You say, I love you to yourself in the mirror. I don't care if you point at yourself and it's like true romance and you're talking to Elvis. You can meet Elvis, by the way. Look in the mirror and say, I love you, you big lug. Or if you're a woman, be like, you gorgeous, you know, however, whatever adjectives you want to throw in. But at some point, the ego gets in and says, whoa, why are we having a love fest? I got other places to be. What is this about? Every issue you've ever had on the family side, you name it, is going to start to pop up. And then how do you react? Can you stick with riding the wild bronco or the jaguar and stick with love? But you'll be crying or laughing hysterically. It'll either be one of the most painful initially experiences, because then everything bubbles up and you've got to stick with the love and just keep saying, I love you. But it's like the center of the Tootsie Pop commercials from the 70s or 80s. How many licks, how many times do you have to say, I love you? Some people are going to need 2,000 of those, and they're going to go through hell. They're going to literally be sobbing or needing a cigar afterwards because it was a journey. And I'm not kidding. You don't have to go to the jungles. I mean, go with a trusted group and have a very special experience. But I mean, the point is, it's got to be your way. But that is the cheapest way I know, is go say, I love you. And if you need a movie reference, because I love movies, I know you love movies. Angela, Angel-A, has that exact scene. It's the black and white. They shut down Paris, maybe 2010. Luc Besson is the director. He's got that Europa Corps. He did the Transporter series. He did Joan of Arc. He did The Professional, The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis. It goes on and on and on. Valerian or whatever that was wild. But they've got the guardian angel with the arm around the poor guy who's from Algeria. He's a comedian in real life, very short. Nobody notices in that movie he's actually missing an arm the whole movie. I mean, that's how he is in real life. You can watch that movie a dozen times and not pick up on that. but she gets him because no one's ever shown him love in life. He somehow reached adulthood. He's kind of a lower level crime figure who borrowed a lot of money from 3 different crime lords. And by midnight, if he doesn't pay it back, he's going to get offed. And the lesson has nothing to do with all the violence going on around him. The lesson is hear and love. And he has to say, I love you. It was one of those movies I got woken up to at 3:30 in the morning. I would always, like clockwork, avoid my lesson in the living room. I go straight to a TV and put on MTV or an old black and white. Now, it happens to be a black and white. I saw a feather coming down the first time. A couple weeks later, I must have clicked it on. They were rerunning the film. And at one point, she says, let me show you. His name's Andre. That's my middle name. She says, I love you, Andre. And the subtitle, I speak French, but I see the subtitle says, I love you, Andre. At 3:30 in the morning, I'm like, whoa, it's my middle name. I'm shocked because I'm doing the best I can. I know I'm supposed to pay attention to the universe. There's balls of light. I'm taking photos. My cat is braver than I am. And I see this. And so, I mean, this is one of my top 3. I love It's a Wonderful Life. There's Lucky Partners from 1940 with Ginger Rogers. I have these on my website. I have the YouTube stuff. You can find that clip for 5 seconds. Angela, Angel-A, Luc Besson. Find the mirror scene at Montmartre up in the north part of Paris, the church. She's trying to show him the act of telling yourself you love yourself. I love you. She disappears after that moment. He has to say it, and he jumps the fence for the first time ever. And I'm getting whooshed on that. He has to say, I love you, and something happens. And it's a gorgeous movie scene. And Mark, this is what you do for people. You help them jump the fence from getting stuck up here, and sometimes for decades at a time, or we know what we know. There's something transformational called life, love, the universe, consciousness, awareness, whatever it is. Can you wrap it up for us on that front of how we're all outstanding in our field with really tall sunflowers if we would just give ourselves a chance? We're incredible when we're here.
Yeah, again, it goes back to, to love thyself, to know thyself, right? The journey of that 1,000 miles begins with that single step, right? And it goes back to the foundations of which I teach people on, the trust, the patience, the dedication, the discipline, to stay the course, and everything we've talked about today, from, that call to seek, exploring those inner realms, if you will, cultivating that mindfulness and presence. I don't know if it's actually just one thing, right? I think it's a makeup, like all the many spots on the Jaguar that you just showed. There were many. We're very, complex individuals and many different experiences, but embracing that transformation and growth, and connecting with the divine, whatever that divinity is for you, right? I always tell people, with my work, I am like a smorgasbord or a spiritual buffet. Is there are things that I'm going to say or things I may do or teach on that you will not agree with, right? But it's like going to the buffet at the Golden Corral. Not that I go there, but go to the Golden Corral because they've always been known to have big buffets. But I lay stuff out for people as a teacher. I don't try to tell people what to see, but I lay things out for people to pick and choose, because it's your free will and your choice. It's your most powerful gifts. Why you're here is the power to choose, the free will to choose what you want to do, and choose maybe you like the mashed potatoes and the chicken fried steak and the cream corn, but maybe you're not a big fan of the broccoli or the cabbage, right? But it's we can still work together, and through kindness and compassion and caring for one another and holding space for one another, we can do that as humans. And that's that love that we talked about earlier, through the power of love. But I don't think it's just one thing. It's about being present in the moment with the time you have, because there is no guarantees for tomorrow. That's why we talk about the carpe diem, to seize the moment, to seize the day. I was just reading, I was just reflecting on a young gentleman who just got drafted into the NFL, wide receiver, stellar career from Oregon, local kid, went to the university just south here, University of Oregon, next door neighbors, Oregon, state of Oregon. And he just got drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. Killed in a three people died in a car crash in Maryland just the other day. He'll never experience the NFL. I mean, think about that. You just got drafted. Your dream, Michael, you just got drafted into whatever dream it is for you, and you're about to start training camp in 2 weeks, and you never make it because you died in a car crash. It's these examples. We've done podcasts on Inspired Living, we've talked to experts about, on any given day, the first thing you should do when you wake up is say thank you, because there are 50,000 souls on average around the planet, with now 8 billion people on the planet. 50,000 plus souls a day make their transition or never open their eyes. And so for me, it's a reminder to say, okay, what can you carpe diem today with the time you're given? Because there's the time of the construct of time with humans but there's also this unseen clock. When does your time end? The unseen clock we don't get access to. So that's a watch that's ticking, right? And at the end of the day, you're another day older, right? So I would say, for me, the spiritual journey for your listeners, I find that it's a very transformative odyssey. If you're willing to have the courage to embark on it for, like I said, self-discovery, growth, connection with yourself and to the divinity, whatever that is for you. Pick smorgasbord by different teachers, by different gurus, by different mentors. But at the end of the day, it's about prospecting on your own personal journey, because that's the only way you're going to know. Not what I say, not what you say, but your own experience in exploring, like I said, those inner realms, and cultivating that mindfulness and embracing transformation and purpose and connecting to something greater than yourself. We navigate this journey all the time. There's many pathways, but we want to find that solace. We want to find that peace. We want to find that deep sense of fulfillment, if you will. And, it's a sacred pilgrim. It's an ancient pilgrimage that have been done by cultures way before us. And it's uncovering those treasures and, those diamonds that I talked about, the diamond within and the many gems that are all around us. Or as Joseph Campbell said, the cave you fear holds the treasure that you seek. The question is, do you have the courage to go into that cave to seek that treasure that you've been longing for? And some will and some won't. And that is, again, that comes back to the power of free will, choice. So I would say make the 3 C's. Make a choice, take a chance, see the change. If you don't risk it, there's no biscuit.
That was the quote I was trying to remember in the middle of the interview. Hey, I've got a quote that ties into what you were just saying. I don't know who said this, though. A jewel buried in the earth 1,000,000 years is not discolored or harmed. And so a genuine heart can be brought out in anyone, anytime. And with that, my friend, Mark Lainhart, Seattle, absolutely incredible radio show, incredible host, incredible experiences, incredible sharing all around, very brave Odysseus on the Odyssey for us all, for himself first, a little bit of self-love in there, obviously, duh. But you're doing it. You're sharing a lot with all of us. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Michael, and I appreciate what you do. Keep up the great work. And if I could, I want to just finish out with a quote. It comes from, we talked about movies, and it's actually not a Star Wars quote, believe it or not. Star Wars behind me, I know. But it's, for your listeners, and it's just a reminder. It comes from the movie Cloud Atlas. If you've not seen Cloud Atlas, I recommend it. Read the book, saw the movie. But it says this, quote, "Our lives are not our own. From womb to tomb, we are bound to others, past and present, and by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future." And so I hope that you are birthing your future through compassion, through kindness, through caring, through love, through prospecting, to make this world a better place, to make our species a more evolved, loving species, and to get to whatever that great coming together is going to be. Because I do foresee, this great coming together, but it's going to usually take chaos to make that, transformation into the evolution of enlightenment, if you will. But thank you so much, my friend, for having me on. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing and putting those vibrations and love out into the universe, because the people that are watching today, who knows, could be watching 50 years from now, be watching 100 years from now, and the message still resonates.
And did I do Yoda's voice earlier on the show, Mark?
I don't think it hit. I don't think we started taping yet.
I'll do Yoda's voice as a last sign off. If you have anything else, though, you'll add it. And from Star Wars, though, this is your challenge. Why I buy you all of 15 seconds. Do not. There is no try. Anything from Star? Oh, I do have one. If you can give me 1 second, but this could be pushing it. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. It's something that it's Obi-Wan Kenobi talking to Luke, and just a reminder of, a lot of the truths that we hold dear to our hearts are really based on our notions at the time and can quickly shift. So those shifting sands, I think, are what you constantly refer to throughout this interview. Just stay nimble and stay with the heart.
Yep. stay with the heart, stay nimble. And again, thanks for having me on this. I love these conversations, these interviews. And if anybody wants to learn about the journey or prospect, the intuitive prospect, your own intuition, you can get me right there or type in the name and I'll pop up. And you can get my podcast wherever you listen to your podcast from. We're streaming through all the major channels now. So appreciate the time, your time, right? Your time is your greatest commodity, my friend, your time. Not about how much money you have, but the time that you have and what you do with that time. That's what matters. So thank you.
Mark Lainhart in Seattle, thank you very much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. Great seeing you again.
Great seeing you, my friend. Take care.